Welcome back, everyone, to MSI 2018, where I'm standing by here with Sword Art from the Flash Wolves after winning against EVOS. Now, congratulations. This was an anticipated game, as EVOS is always very, very aggressive. How did you guys prepare, and how are you able to get the upper hand over the team?
恭喜你们赢得胜利。然后 EVOS 通常都会打得很凶，大家都知道。那你们准备跟他们对战的时候，有特别准备什么吗？
我觉得最主要的话就是我们教练的功劳吧，因为我们教练有帮我们研究他们很多他们打法跟角色的选角上面，然后让我们打起来就是很轻松这样。
I think the credit goes to our coaches and analysts. They study a lot and they study their game style and also their champion pool, so we're able to come up on top.
Fantastic first game by you guys. You guys came into the split with a new roster with Hanabi and with Mujin. You guys did great in the LMS, great in the play-ins, now great so far here. What do these two players bring to the Flash Wolves lineup?
Hanabi 跟 Mujin 是你们新的队员，然后你们在ONS赛季打得很好，然后这几场也都打得很好。那他们带你们对战有什么样的优势吗？
我觉得最主要的话，因为他们两个都算是蛮年轻的选手嘛，然后我觉得他们两个最好的优点就是他们两个操作都很好，让我们可以打很多战术。然后，比较怕的就是他们在打比赛的时候会比较紧张，因为是新人。但是其实我觉得他们都不会，甚至是打得比我们其他比较旧的选手还来得更好。
So yeah, there are new young players and they're really good at their mechanics, so that allows us to play with a somewhat different play style sometimes. At first we were worried because they're young and they're new. They might get nervous on the big stage, but so far they've been performing well, like even surpassed some of the experienced players.
They've been doing fantastically, as has the whole team. You were very animated and happy and smiling after that win, which is something we always see from the Flash Wolves. How is the atmosphere in the team?
他说，感觉你每次打完比赛赢的时候，都是跟以前一样笑得很开心，然后很欢乐的样子。那我们也期待，就是你们会一直保持这样的就是情绪在你们打比赛的时候吗？
如果我们可以一直赢的话，应该才会这样；输的话，应该就不会笑这样了。
Yes, if we keep on winning, I'm sure the atmosphere will be the same. But if we lose, I'm not so sure.
All right. Well, yeah, winning is fun indeed, and you guys are winning so far. Thank you very much, Sword Art. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Shocks. While we're winning, we're good. But the moment we start losing, temperaments might go out the window. But really, a statement win out of Flash Wolves there over EVOS here in their first game of the group stage.
I mean, it had to be. The LMS has tasted, being a premier power region before, and now they're starting to slip closer back to the emerging regions, and they just want to say, no, there is a difference. We do belong on the main stage, and not just the LMS, Flash Wolves.
Right, looking to drive forward with that mentality, though, we have to turn our attention to our upcoming matchup. This is the tournament favorites in Kingzone DragonX facing off against the North American LCS champions in Team Liquid. Now, Kingzone, they've won 2 domestic titles in a row, but internationally, their success is a different story.
Yeah, you can see from their bottom lane, Prey and Gorilla, they haven't won the international tournaments, especially when favored or as Korea's main representative. But they also have never been to an MSI. They're huge favorites in this one. They've won back-to-back LCK titles. BDD, their mid laner, has won back-to-back MVPs, so they are poised to take this tournament.
Plenty of accolades on this team. It is, of course, important to remember that Peanut is returning to defend his title here at MSI, the only returning member from that SKT squad. And this lineup also features 3 members from the 2016 World Semifinalist Rox Tigers. So no shortage of experience, although just not quite capturing that victory that they've been searching for so long.
I do want to kind of quickly touch on Peanut, though. You say SKT Peanut, and I think people need to recognize this is Rox Peanut. This is not the passive Peanut that we saw last time at the World Championship. This is him back in MSI form, and he is very aggressive, and he's the center of this team, in my opinion.
And it's fascinating because when we look at this team, we often think of them as a triple carry threat. But you've also got to think about the jungle and support roles and the amount of playmaking and early game impact that these individuals have.
Is it possible to be a 5-threat team?
I mean, it feels like that when you look at this roster, they kind of introduced the idea.
I mean, there's conversations that people asked after they saw them win the LCK finals, and they said, do they have the 5 best players in their role on the same team? And it's actually a conversation.
That's true.
Right? We also haven't seen them play yet, because Prey has been pretty good against Uzi historically. And I like bringing up Peanut in particular, because when he was on SKT, he wasn't Peanut. He was FLICKR's jungler.
Yeah.
And on this team, he can actually be Peanut. They turned him into the shot caller. They still play that up-tempo style, and they're a very scary team.
And the thing is when you look at the goal difference at 15 for every single one of these players, they are above and beyond standouts, not only domestically, but of course at this tournament. And it's Peanut specifically that has the highest goal difference, which is very unique because when you look at the other teams, you would expect it to be the AD carry or the mid laner, and they're the only team that have it on their jungler.
Now, so much of the tournament focus has been around the bottom side of the map, but in this specific matchup, I do want to turn our attention to that top lane. We've got Khan, of course, the guy who's been known to play both carries and tanks, up against the likes of former world champion and Impact. But Impact more recently, you know, considered to be relegated to the tank play, not so much ever reaching to those carries.
Now, I will preface this by saying that when we watched the finals, Khan did play a couple of tanks, and we know that it is within his playbook, but we also know that this guy loves to play Jace, he loves to play Camille, his gangplank is no slouch either. This guy has so many tools available at his disposal. When you just compare him to kind of the old veteran that is Impact, it is very difficult not to see this mismatch between the two top laners.
I will say Impact is a pressure player. We were saying the same things about their matchup with Echo Fox in the NLCS semifinals when he had to play up against Huni, and Team Liquid and Impact did very well in that matchup, even with a bunch of bans thrown towards him. So there is a chance that Impact holds his own against Khan.
For me, one of the biggest differences between them is that when I look at Impact, I agree that he is someone that has a huge impact outside of just his lane, right? He works extremely well with the team, and even during laning phase, he finds opportunities to get involved with the rest of the map. But if he's doing that, he is leaving lane advantages to his laner. And with someone like Huni, I feel like he has not been able to properly utilize them compared to someone like Khan who will. And when he gets these lane leads, that is when he is at his most scary.
So this leaves me with two questions. The first is what, if any, focus will Kingzone have in terms of the way they approach this game specifically against Team Liquid? We talk about the possibility of 3 different carries. Will they throw Khan on a carry-like champion? Will they say, no, take the tank versus tank matchup because we're comfortable in our, our confidence of our 5v5 team fighting that we can go late with Team Liquid and win there?
I expect that it'll be a tank matchup.
Okay. Now, on the flip side, my question is for Team Liquid, being considered the underdog in this matchup, knowing the likelihood of Kingzone being able to carry from any position, how do you even begin to attack a team that we've just discussed has more threats and possibly the 5 best players in their role across the entire globe?
Sometimes having fewer choices can be used as your advantage. You ever went to a restaurant and seen like 130 things on the menu?
That's like my
what do
my
I
worst
get?
enemy.
I mean, that's what
Is a big
Kingzone
menu.
has. Everyone's good and can
Cheesecake
play
Factory.
everything. So you really have to just pick whatever. Whereas Team Liquid, they're really good at one thing.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that thing. They're going to play around double if they're going to try and have a hyper carry. They're going to put Pobelter on a roamer, and they're going to put Impact on a tank, right? And they're just going to try and play that as well as possible, and then hope that it's enough to beat Kingzone.
All right, hope it's practice enough that they can kind of run right through it. We've talked a lot about Peanut. We did not talk about the guy on the other side of the matchup, Smithy. So Vidius, talk to me about the task that he has ahead of him in trying to control Peanut.
Now, I haven't had the opportunity to cast Smithy for an entire split, but I've only heard nothing but good things about not only his work ethic, but just what he brings to a team. I've been told that he is an extremely smart jungler. He comes in always well prepared, and I feel like that he just has a good understanding of what his opponent is doing. So if anyone is going to have a good shot at reading Peanut and tracking what often is a huge early game impact, it will be Smithy. And the fascinating thing is, how well can he shut it down, if at all?
But the only name that we haven't talked about is we keep saying Peanut, we say Kong, we say Prey, but you also have to talk about BDD. And one of the core tenets of Kingzone is having mid priority so that they can unlock Peanut and collapse to him first. So I do agree. It starts with Smithy, but for me, it's not just Smithy versus Peanut, it's Pobelter Smithy versus BDD Peanut, and that's where things get really slanted for me. I think Pobelter is phenomenal in lane. He's got great mechanics. I think his team fighting is strong, but his roaming has not been nearly as consistent or nearly as strong as BDD. And if this is a bot lane focused meta and everything needs to eventually go into doublelift, I just think it is so slanted.
Let's talk about Pobelter for a second, Jap, because domestically for so long he's been vocal about the fact that he wants to get out of the shadow of the likes of Bjergsen and Jensen. Well, he did win the domestic title, and so that's done some to kind of, assuage those doubts. But here at an international tournament going up against the likes of BDD, to come away with a win here would speak, volumes to his ability as a mid laner.
Yeah, he also won Finals MVP. But I am skeptical to give him too much praise.
Okay.
Because I can even remember last year at Worlds during week 2 of group stage, we prepped a bunch of graphics being like, Pobelter has been great. And like, as we're pulling up the graphic, he dies. And he just had a terrible last day of Worlds.
Right.
And then we did a little like mini MVP campaign 4 weeks into the spring split. And then he goes into this huge slump. So he's a very inconsistent player. The fact that he had the good finals and got the recognition should be great for his confidence and it should improve his practice, but definitely a very tall order going up.
All right, but let me narrow the focus here as we're about a minute away from game time. Where does this matchup hinge? Because we've basically hit all 5 members on each side of things. So down the line, I want to know from you guys what you think might be the most important factor to determining win or loss for either side.
I think it's mid-jungle duo, and I think it's about matching the wave priority that they're going to put on BDD, so Pobelter can at least follow the roam, but it's about enabling xMithy. Track Peanut, shut him down, because everything for Kingzone does start with Peanut.
I think personally that overall as a team, Kingzone is very good at not making many mistakes. But I think Team Liquid is smart enough to recognize where they can find areas to punish. It's just about how willing they are to do it. And for me, that all hinges on xMithy. I think it's very dangerous to try this style of just camp bot lane. This bot lane is famous for tanking ganks, and that is what they've always been known for. I think your whole goal is you have to know what Peanut is up to, you have to track him, and you have to limit his impact so that you can get through the laning phase, which I feel is one of the weaker parts of Team Liquid.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, it's bot lane focused meta. I think if Team Liquid wins, it's because Doublelift gets far ahead of Prey. However, in order to do that, you have to shut down Peanut first. So I agree with the other 2 people that if they can shut down Peanut, that's Team Liquid's best chance.
All right, so if Team Liquid is going to unseat the tournament favorites, it's all going to ride on xMithy, the guy who finished top 2 the last time he was at MSI, so he's got the experience under his belt. With that, we're going to toss it back to the casters to get us into this game.
Thank you very much, Dash, and let's start by introducing the players. On the blue side, we have Kingzone from the LCK. Starting in the top lane, Khan. In the jungle, Peanuts. In the mid lane, BDD. AD carry, Prey. Support, Gorilla. Their coach, Axine. And substitute jungler, Cuz. On the other side of the rift is the North American LCS champions, Team Liquid. Starting in the top lane, it's Impact. Jungle, xMithy. Mid lane, Pobelter. ADC, Doublelift. Support, Ole. Coach Kane. And the support, Joey. One more time for Kingzone versus Team Liquid. Now, it's a lot of fun watching the players take the stage. It's a lot of surprises to see how many people are wearing Kingzone merch, because, of course, the team rebranded relatively recently. And
Papa Smooth has been going crazy.
there we go.
Tossing it around
bringing it all
everywhere.
out. There's a couple of guys in the fan there with some signs as well, which is absolutely awesome to see. But Kingzone Team Liquid, it is a gigantic matchup for North America, Azale.
Yeah, it certainly is. But while I would say it would be amazing if you win, it does not mean the end of the tournament by any means if you lose, right? This is the heavy tournament favorites. I think that being said, you still want to put on a performance you're proud of. Even if you lose, you don't want to get decimated. Team Liquid want to show that they have a good read on the patch meta, put out a solid draft and a strong performance.
I mentioned the fans here showing their fandom. You guys can do the same. Log into the client all throughout MSI. Use your favorite team's icon in-game. So far, the LCL is leading, thanks, of course, to Gambit, and then they're ahead of LLL and LLN and CB LOL. So major regions not showing up yet, but let's see whether they're on a few more games.
Day one.
Day one, of course, we're seeing NAEU start to take up arms. And Deficio, we heard the analyst is talking a lot about how if Team Liquid can win, needs to be enabled, needs to get ahead, somehow needs to shut Peanut down. Is that something that you can do in the draft? Is that something that maybe there's a Yasuo pick or equivalent that could surprise us?
I mean, there is ways where you could try and take away some of the aggressive jungle picks that he can play in the early game, get him on a tank, which is something he has played a few times, and makes it a little bit easier to stop him from just running into your jungle and going crazy. I think the other one is, as Frosk highlighted, when it comes to BDD in the mid lane, like, him getting push priority is a huge part of a jungler invading. It's not Peanut alone, it's the entire team playing for him when it comes to early game. So if you can actually get maybe a winning or a pushing lane matchup for Poe Builder, it can make it a little bit harder for Peanut to play aggressive.
It definitely can, but it's so tough to look at Kingzone and be like, this is how you beat them, because even if you want to say, okay, great, draft an advantageous 2v2 bot lane, you draft like your Caitlyn and your Morgana, and you're pushing them in, and they're on a scaling AD carry, and great, you're pressuring the turret, and you're tracking Peanut, and everything's looking good. Well, Khan could be playing Jace and be 10-0 in the top lane, and your base is already gone. So
and you've also just seen like 17 steps in a row that have to go flawless. And correct.
And it doesn't even mean that you've won the rest of the map. And Kingzone is so frightening because I believe they have the best player in every role in the tournament. And it's so tough because you have to stop everyone. There can be no weak link on your team because anyone on Kingzone can take over the game and flip it on its head.
Uzi's crying backstage right now, hoping you believed in him, but no, you pick Prey, and that's okay. I think just if you are a Team Liquid, you got to pick your battles. Like, you can't attack all 3 lanes here. You can't say, yeah, we're going to beat Khan, BDD at the same time. I think if there's a way for you to have Khan on a tank, again, it relieves a lot of pressure in the early game, and I think that's kind of the key thing. I think once teams go to late game, games get a lot closer. Yeah. There's a lot of chances you have one individual carry who can step up and win your fight. You should just be super scared of Kingzone's early to mid game because they are so good at snowballing the correct lane and then finishing the games in time. They don't make big mistakes around the Baron. They don't give you a chance to get back if they're already 5-6k gold ahead. So you need to make sure you do not get completely destroyed in the early game.
And just going to give you that update. You're talking about Khan on a tank versus carries. Khan on carries is 23 wins and 1 loss in LCK Spring this year. So that's a pretty good win-loss ratio.
I mean, it's just absurd. The guy is such a monster on carries, and in a tournament where no other top laner would even have played that many carry games, he is almost undefeated. He is so strong at them, and he can still play the tank style. Kingzone showed in the finals that they can play through Prey, that they can play a hyper carry style, all protecting Prey, give him all the resources, but they can do it all, and they can draft and come at you from so many different angles.
And in that final, it was Prey on Kai'Sa, where he was able to be a huge carry. Kingzone said after, they had other things prepared, but they never needed to show it because he could just keep picking the same AD carry and go crazy. Team Liquid, they ban it. This time around, they ban Camille now. Take that away from Khan as well. And I just need to see. Peanut's Olaf is available, if that is something he wants to go for in the early game. That would be the kind of jungler where he can go completely crazy.
Well, not going to be the case. Ezreal first pick.
I mean, Prey's Ezreal is legendary, right? Yep. The guy, it's his most played by far, 15 picks in the regular season. The next most one was 5 there of Kalista and Varus. So, and this to me says that they want to play the style that they were playing throughout the regular season, not in the finals, where it is the absorption of the ganks. It's Prey, playing a lower economy style, being able to absorb blows while they maybe focus elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, and also we have to remember the new Archangel's build that is being used, started over in the LCK Prey. Huge fan of that build specifically, does give him even more late game power also, so it's not just about the mid game power spike anymore, which was the case as you highlighted there, Azil. Like him getting 2 items, he holds the mid lane forever, and Khan just goes crazy in the side lane with BDD.
The Jhin, if it does get locked in here for Doublelift, is one of his undefeated picks in the NALCS. The Jhin, the Caitlyn, his 2 most successful picks throughout North America. Started playing them a lot more in the later half of the split and being very, very successful with them throughout playoffs as well. Jhin also quite strong into the Ezreal, but I think that Olaf is a terrifying pick here for Peanut when that is left up, and it's going to give him early priority.
And that's kind of the thing for Team Liquid here. I think having Prey first pick Ezreal is okay. If you're Team Liquid, that's not the biggest loss for you in a draft. But the fact that you can't take the Olaf yourself, at least it's not something Xmithy has played all split long, so you end up giving it over anyway. And now we get Smithy.
What do you make of the Graves?
This is something I was talking with Izzy earlier, and I was saying I think Smithy might be going back towards the Graves. He's always had a proclivity to go towards ranged junglers. He has been quite successful with them in the past. And when you look back to last year's Worlds, he was playing the Ezreal jungle. When you look at him in the finals of MSI, he was playing the Kindred. He has always really enjoyed that sort of playstyle. And you're also playing a team where both Ole and Impact are extremely comfortable playing tanks. And that allows you to kind of build a comp that is not one without a front line.
And I want to add in as well that Graves is probably the hardest jungler to invade. Because he has a shotgun and he likes to shoot things into walls, and there's a lot of walls in his jungle, so most players do not want to walk into a Graves. If you don't know where he is, he can almost one-shot you. So I think this pick specifically for Xmithy is to say, I know you're coming, Peanut. I know you can invade me.
I dare you to come.
Come, I have Graves now. I can try and fight you.
And I mean, part two of why he's so tough to invade is because his clear is so damn healthy. The knockback on the shotgun, pushes those monsters and minions away from you, keeps you very, very safe, very healthy in the jungle. And if you start to make mistakes when you are playing as a jungler against the Graves, they can not only have domination of their own side of the map, but they can start to get in your face. They can start to look to take your camps away, as he's one of the strongest early game junglers at taking things away, like the Raptors, which is very important in that counter jungling battle.
And let's see if this Karma will go to mid lane or support. BDD will be the first time he does lock it in for himself. And obviously, if it is one of those picks where you can control the mid lane very well. You can move with your jungler. Strong early skirmish on the side of Karma with a very strong base damage.
I've got a big smile on my face seeing that Singed band away. We know Impact pulled that one out in the finals of NALCS, and it's a lot of respect as well to see on this stage before you even see an Impact play it on the MSI stage. Nope, don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and he's a guy who has such flexibility in his champion pool, and while I think everyone is going to say top lane is Khan favored, leaving the last pick here for Impact, he should have some answer, right? And I think that TL is looking for Impact to equalize the lane or lose a little bit gracefully, not get super far behind. They're not necessarily looking to go carry versus carry and dominate, and giving that last pick to Impact is going to have that flexibility.
Looks like it's going to be Cho'Gath. Ornn is also available. I think Impact can just grab that for himself, and he will actually be very happy with this. This is what we talk about coming into the game. If you are Team Liquid and you're able to get Khan just on a tank, you don't have to really worry too much about that lane all of a sudden when it just comes to the individual carry ability of Khan specifically. It is really BDD and then Peanut you're looking towards, as it seems like a Karma mid lane for Kingzone.
Ooh, gonna be locked in a moment or two, and we'll close it out. The support will be Soraka instead of the Janna. So confirms us the Karma mids.
Soraka with Emax, Airy, and Scorch. Point on clicks on that ground and just burns you like 30% HP in lane. It is so annoying to play against early on. Now you can gank it and kill it. So that's what I want to see.
I mean, people aren't even taking heal until level 4 now on Soraka. They're actually going a couple points in the E, 1 point in the Q, and you can play it very differently. You can play it very aggressive. This is also a tremendous amount of protection for Prey, so while he is not playing, the traditional crit scaling hyper carry, as you mentioned, double tier build for Ezreal really does equalize some of those disadvantages in the late game against some of those crit marksmen. Prey certainly can take over the game. He has 2 big frontliners. He has a healer and someone to shield him up, and he's going to have his opportunities to carry this.
Exactly, and it's going to be Kingzone going into this tournament, playing around the bot lane in game 1. It is not a Jayce top lane or anything crazy. Peanut is still on that Olaf, and that's the biggest one for me in the early game, because we know that he can be fantastic on this champion, both domestically and internationally. We have seen Peanut just carry games on Olaf.
You've got to say, it's a smart draft from Kingzone. When you're coming into a tournament, you don't necessarily know what Team Liquid is going to be able to bring out. Playing a tank in the top side gives you more consistency, more stability, so you're not going to be taken off guard by some crazy counter pick or anything like that, and they've set themselves up well.
It is just not very fun to play Tahm Kench against double range and one of them that can heal the tiny amount of poke you can actually land on the side of Team Liquid. However, there is some all-in potential. If you actually can land the snare from Jhin and get 3 stacks with the Tahm Kench and devour a Soraka, she's so easy to kill. And they have to be able to kill that bot lane.
If Team Liquid are able to get ahead, the Ornn Horde, the Realm Warp, Tahm Kench Abyssal Voyage, there are plenty of tools to use. if you find the right opportunities.
Also worth pointing out, this is actually a teleport Ezreal. This is something that has been coming up in solo queue, high elo solo queue, more and more recently. Yes, you do not have the heal, but that is being brought by Gorilla. So you are down one combat summoner, but one of the things it allows you to do is kind of get their super early tier, be able to come back to lane very, very quickly with that. Try to look for more advantageous buy timings and not necessarily lose your lane pressure because of it.
They want Prey to get two fully completed items as fast as possible in this game. Start grouping with a Karma, who's fantastic in the mid game as well, and then you can just run at Team Liquid, and there should be so little they could do to stop Prey from dealing damage.
And one of the scariest things for me when you're looking at from TL's side is you're thinking, all right, BDD is probably going to go tier and then rush a banner. That's a pushing lane. Cho'Gath generally has the push against an Ornn. And then this bottom lane is likely going to be pushing them in as well. How is Smithy really supposed to be able to get active and get aggressive on the map as a Graves if all of his lanes are being pushed in? And he's against that Olaf. And you need to be kind of having that pressure and that presence on the map.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the creative pathing from a Graves can kick in. You can dash over the Dragon Wall and appear behind Kingzone's bot lane. If they are, in fact, pushing with this Soraka, that really is the risk, because the further you go in that lane, if you are Gorilla, the riskier it is against a composition with Jhin and Tahm Kench, as we talked about before there. There is pretty decent CC. There's Ignite on Ole as well, of course. And Soraka is very squishy, so it is a fairly easy kill if Gorilla is caught out.
If the setup is there. We caught a glimpse, by the way, of that ward just being killed in the Raptor camp by Kingzone. Now we'll see how this execution plays out. Prey and Gorilla already getting the early advantage. Ole was a little late to lane, was running to the jungle, and that means Doublelift just already being zoned away.
It's a nice deep board, though, so it probably is, worth that price. They're getting to kind of track where Peanut is on the map. They're going to know that he started blue, see that buff, and that is going to give them some information. But certainly, it will be tough, especially if you give up the push against Ezreal Soraka. You get poked out so heavily under your turret, it becomes very hard for Tahm Kench to prep minions without actually giving up a lot of his health to do so. And you can start finding yourself very far behind in CS.
And we're seeing in this game Gorilla starting with Starcall, the Q level 1 just for more push. Very safe trading. Will now start with the silent spam, and once again, it can proc Airy, it can proc Scorch, and it deals a lot of early game damage. That's just, it's impossible to kind of dodge it because it's instant on the ground. And it becomes really difficult to lane against it. The moment you run out of potions, it's like, yeah, okay, every single one is just going to burn me down, and at some point I have to go back to base.
Well, let's see what that does, because obviously the teleport for Prey, as you've already mentioned, some advantageous back timing. Also, by the way, 5 players in this game with minion dematerializer, 2 on the side of Kingzone, 3 on the side of Team Liquid. It feels like we're back in time a few patches with 3 teleports and those dematerializers. But it's going to have a very big impact on the state of the early to mid game.
It certainly is, and you can tell how important these teams know that the wave push control is going to be, for enabling their junglers. And I really like the adaptation that Peanut actually did in his jungle route. He, before getting his red, went up, took the scuttle to cover his bottom lane, then went in, checked on the camps on the right side of the map to see if those were up for Smithy. Because as you said, hey, maybe Smithy does a creative path, maybe he comes over the Dragon Wall, well, scuttle covers that. They know that he's not on the Gromp, so they know that he can't go for a lane gank. And that's all to enable this bottom lane to push in, to poke them out under turret, and I just think it speaks of a very cohesive game plan.
Yeah, every single move so far has been about vision and information on the opponent jungle. You can see Peanut invading, getting it on the tri-bush there behind Team Liquid.
Yeah, and also placing that ward in case Xmithy was on the bottom side and could have walked past the tri-bush and then dashed over the wall once again to just appear behind Kingzone's bot lane. Because as we highlighted multiple times already, the lane counter to Soraka basically is like you all in her and you destroy her, and typically you need the jungler there to do a 2v2 or 2v3.
Yeah, unless you can get way ahead, and then that's depending on misplays from Prey and Gorilla, which you're probably not going to get. And you can see Doublelift, already is falling down in the farm because of that, right? It's just so incredibly hard. You can't farm it perfectly without your minions getting prepped from your support, and when there's this much poke, it becomes so hard.
Yeah, and also he's starting Doran's Blade, like small things obviously early, but Doran's Ring allows him to push a little bit more with grenades. You want to try and match it. Doran's Shield, of course, a little bit more sustain against all the poke, but went for Doran's Blade here for have more damage in a potential all-in. Another ward being placed by Kingzone once again to see if they can find Xmithy.
Hold up, Xmithy's just walked all the way in. The root comes down looking for the Devour. That will be a flash at least and that was just waltzing straight down.
A little bit sloppy, honestly, from Kingzone. Kind of surprised that the flash was even having to be forced. Flash and heal down. That was thwarted. They saw Smithy walk all the way in, and they just assumed perhaps that, all right, he's going to back off when we back off. But instead, Smithy goes around, forces double summoners, which is going to allow Doublelift and Olay to have a bit more presence in this lane, because this changes completely the way that Gorilla can play it. He can't now push with Abandon up under that turret, because if you get flashed on by an like Tom Catch, and he gets that Devour, you will be going down. So they have to play with a bit more respect, and we'll see if that actually changes and gets reflected in the creep score.
Well, for the time being, with Doublelift going to back 43 CS under his belt, Prey and Gorilla shoved that wave up as quickly as they could. Olay's waiting. Try and catch that as much as possible and don't waste any CS.
And well, Peanut just continues to farm on his side. Not been looking to try and challenge Smithy in his own jungle. Is what we highlight as one of the very strong things about a Graves. My throat decided not to agree with me for a moment.
Well, luckily the gameplay did. Because Smithy, as you mentioned, still farming up his own jungle. We haven't seen Smithy get too involved other than that one gank down bottom. Peanut hasn't invaded him either. So I want to see how those two clash as this game continues to scale up and we, you know, extend this laning phase.
You can also see how well managed the minion wave was on the bottom side, because not only did it actually bounce off TL's turret, but Gorilla actually came and grouped up those minions so they would push more heavily towards them. Then they utilized the TP for Prey to be back in time to collect all that farm. So not only is Doublelift going to be down in the experience, he'll be down in minions and put in a more awkward position, which could expose him perhaps at any potential jungle pressure.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, a control ward was placed in this little brush behind Team Liquid's bottom lane, and that actually means now that there's another gank path for Smithy, which is basically just run straight down the lane and sit in this brush here, once again making it difficult for Gorilla to push forward. And it also killed a ward that was placed in the lane that could have been a TP ward for BDD and Khan. So very effective placement that applies a bit of pressure and kills the one ward you need to be scared of.
Exactly. You know, it has so many different applications there. And it's also because they know they want to play a different style. Now that the summoners are down on Gorilla, you want to be pushing, so you have to kind of check those boxes to make sure you are safe to do so. So definitely some foresight there, pretty intelligent. And Kingzone is opening up a little bit of a lead, but certainly the game has been fairly even.
Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we haven't really talked a lot about the Ryze versus Karma, and PoBuilder is just kind of accepting that Karma controls the lane here, and she's pushing in the Ryze multiple times. And as long as PoBuilder can try and follow in case a roam happens, then he can still add some value for his team in this early laning phase, but there is the TP on BDD, which will be hard to match for him.
Well, PoBuilder with that unsealed spell book and making
himself
a move down bottom. He actually swapped that TP just a moment or two ago. Trying to set up, remember, no flash on Gorilla. He has to be the target. He has to get rooted down. Where is the Realm Warp? I'm looking for it. There's the tongue lashing. Body blocked by Prey, those Gorilla. Now finds himself in trouble. First blood pick up by PoBuilder. Teleport completed by BDD. He's got the Feast on cooldown. And Team Liquid with the first proactive play.
Honestly, just a beautiful roam down there from PoBuilder and capitalizing on the earlier gank from Smithy. This is, you know, a fair bit of a reward from a kind of thoughtless mistake from the Kingzone bot lane earlier, not respecting the gank that they saw warded out. They don't back off. That costs the summoners. This is executing on the kill, and they get the teleport from BDD. So just great stuff in the early game from TL.
This actually reminds me a little bit of the first few games Kingzone played at Worlds, or as Longshoe, where, again, one of the big stories was, you know, it's impossible to gank Gorilla and Prey. They can always just spot them and survive. But Gorilla had to play some range supports back then as well, and teams actually found success in trying to kill him early because he's a lot squishier than normal. But back in the LCK, he plays a ton of tank supports. It's a lot easier to stay alive from some of these different ganks.
Oh, hold up.
Soraka here.
Hold up.
Is he gonna kill it?
The Ornn Horn has been summoned. Khan gets knocked up into the air. Impact trying to trade back. Bella's breath comes out. Down to 100 HP, and Impact wins the 1v1.
Yeah, very nicely done there from Impact, knowing Feast is on cooldown. He gets to be a bit more aggressive here, and you see it again, Smithy down on the bottom side of the map, looking to make a repeat gank here with the Tom Kench ultimate perhaps. But they see Kingzone playing pretty far back, not gonna actually commit for it.
All right, so TP going to top lane from Khan. BDD used the TP last time around. PoBuilder's TP is still there, ready. Same thing for Impact. Let's see if he decides to use it back to lane or not. But otherwise, Team Liquid can look for another play down the bot lane. It's exactly what they want to do. Get Doublelift as fed as possible and just punish this Soraka pick. Ganker, take the bot lane turret, and that's how you can win the game.
Yeah, it's very nicely done to be able to get that advantage there, to be able to kind of stabilize that lane. And Impact was forced to TP back to the top side because of where the minions are. There's so much experience to be losing under his turret and not willing to
What
do
a
that
greedy
just yet.
player.
But I want to go back to what you were saying, Fisher, about Kingzone and how when they were at Worlds last year, they were a bit of a disappointing showing in the quarterfinals against, was it Samsung? They got 3-0'd. 4 of the 5 members are returning, and we've actually heard some of the players talking in interviews about the pressure of being the sole representatives for Korea. At a World Championship, there's other teams that can carry that South Korean flag and look to bring home championships. Prey Gorilla, they're going to zone away this bottom lane and potentially take it down. But yeah, a lot of pressure on their shoulders because for the first time, it's not SKT representing the LCK here at MSI.
And while they did lose the first blood, they still get the first turret for themselves in the bot lane. And that's kind of another thing we've seen a lot of times when especially Western teams are playing against a top Korean team is the Western team is chasing the kills, but the Korean team is kind of just keeping control of the laning phase, always make sure they crash the waves in and get the
+20
turrets.
CS with a teleport Ezreal and Tower First Blood and a 1300 gold. So objective-wise, definitely in the lead.
I mean, that's the thing with these top LCK teams is that they play the map so incredibly well. No matter if you're getting kills or not, they know the correct responses. They're taking the maximum anytime you make a mistake, anytime you miss position on the map, and really kind of utilizing that very, very well. And now they're going to swap over to the top side, try to look to pressure additional turrets. But Smithy at least getting something back now that Peanut had shown on the bottom side.
Yeah, and again, this game for Kingzone is not about Peanut and Khan going crazy on the top side. It's now, again, all about Prey. And it does, as we highlighted before, buy a bit more time for Team Liquid. At least they're not getting completely destroyed to some early skirmishes. And you will have to go into late game team fights between these two teams. And there is, of course, a lot of scaling on both sides. Also, Xmithy on a Graves is one of these junglers that, in a good team fight, if he gets the correct position, can carry. Let's see what happens bot lane. Khan is alone.
Okay, Feast has just been used. The minion wave is going to be kept alive thanks to the teleport by Pobelter. Look at the damage onto Khan. It's double if that picks it up. Prey will complete his TP down to the bottom lane. Team Liquid staying in touching distance of gold.
Actually, a really big deal that Prey TP down because that means they can't take the top lane turret and actually trade those turrets out. So with the Rift Herald going down, TL potentially can even this out, but maybe stretching themselves a bit too far, trying to go for the Dragon and the turret at the same time.
Well, let's see. Meanwhile, Impact, no TP. He's just going to push for the top lane turret, but it's going to take some time for him. Kingzone, they're around, they want to fight.
Oh, BDD's looking for the damage, manages to find the root, but Devour from Ole buys a lot of time. Those star calls are coming out, and Team Liquid in a 3v4 are running for their lives. Dragon was prepped and secured by Kingzone.
Yeah, that's just it's a bridge too far from TL. I mean, they make a good play on the bottom side, and they're like, oh, we can get everything. Well, they should have just stayed bot, secured that turret, then maybe fell back to Dragon as a team if they wanted to go for that play, but instead they try to get both. They get neither because Gorilla roam down. BDD pokes them off that turret.
Pobelter forced to flash for his life. Takes a lot of damage. Xmithy's waiting in the wings.
Bunch of NA caster minions staying in the way. They are blocking the Q from BDD. Sniped
by Prey. Easily picks that one up.
Never start recalling at those turrets. Enemy Ezreal looks for it. Gotta hide to the sides.
Oh, unbelievable. Impact is going to pick a little bit of a fight here with Khan, but just like that, Kingzone turn it around. They're up 1,000 gold, and they're even going to contest this red buff. Well, going to look for a fight, actually. Smithy gets some good damage down onto Gorilla with that end of the line, but look, it's the tower that's the focus.
Yeah, once again, it's Team Liquid. They make a play, they get a kill, and we get a reaction instantly from Prey with this AD carry, with the TP. And I think that kind of surprised Team Liquid just overall. Okay, what does it actually mean that the TP is down? And then the fact that Impact didn't have his TP top lane. It was just 4v4 on the bottom side, despite Khan being dead. And therefore, there was no advantage for Team Liquid to grab more objectives.
And you just see how heavily they're punished off of a play that was an initial good play. They get a kill instead, of getting a turret and just taking that. They try to go for too much. They lose then their mid lane turret off that pressure. They lose then the Dragon. They lose then another kill. And Kingzone will punish you so incredibly hard, and then you've lost tempo on the map, and now your top lane is being threatened to be dove, so you lose that turret there too. It really does start to kind of snowball.
15 minutes is fast approaching, so is the 3,000 gold lead. And for Kingzone, they already had a phenomenally good early game. They're doing that again this time around.
But if Team Liquid had just stayed bot lane with the 4 members and taken the turret, like it was 2 guys from Kingzone trying to defend. Gorilla was alone top lane as a Soraka.
Yep.
BDD had to run from mid to do something, but by walking back to Drake, everything backfired. Oh, Khan.
Rupture lands. Where is the feast? Smithy's able to escape with his life. Khan not in range for the feast. I think Doublelift may have just saved him with that route.
It definitely could look like a very different game. You know, we could be even in gold, but that's not the situation we're in. TL makes that mistake. Kingzone capitalizes, and we're back to the state that we are in now. You have to say one thing going well for TL, though, is with all the map movements that have been made, Doublelift has been kind of catching up in farm, and the monster Q just getting blocked by those ranged minions. But Kingzone does get the kill eventually anyway, and the funny part about it is, it's probably better that it didn't actually go to BDD and instead ends up getting taken by Prey.
Oh man, unbelievable. Good snipe by Prey, and that just hits us up again. 3 towers to 0, 1 kill to 2. It's about the map. It's about the gold lead, and Kingzone are in a very comfortable position.
Yeah, and Prey will have the fully stacked tier in 2 minutes time. He will then also have the Trinity Force. He can already, if he wants to, then go for another tier and start stacking that one for the Archangels that will come in later. He is so insanely fed, and we're not even 20 minutes into the game, just because he's been getting farm, and he's been able to stack this tier and killing all the turrets.
Yeah, exactly. The turret gold, very big there as well. I was a little bit surprised to see BDD not actually going for the banner rush. He's instead going for a bit of a more kind of damage-heavy build, perhaps because they don't have that pure hyper carry, 80 carry. It's not like this is a Jinx or a Kog'Maw or whatever. You still need the others to be kind of contributing a bit more damage, and in this style, he will be able to do that.
I also want to see with junglers like Graves, physical damage jungler who can go in and kill a banner minion in the mid lane. Like, it is a very effective way to try and counter it. How often other teams will still build banner against these kind of physical damage junglers?
Yeah, because it's tough, right? You have to weigh the pros and the cons. You know, even if the Graves comes and clears that out, well, hey, you know where the Graves is. Maybe you can make a play elsewhere on the map, but is that worth the investment of that banner? And that's what we'll see teams kind of make a judgment on throughout the tournament.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on that because no banner yet, and Team Liquid playing defensive game. 2.5k down. With the outer turrets gone, it's more difficult for Kingzone to push into Team Liquid's territory. And they're still scaling and farming up. Azel, you talked about the CS for Doublelift. He's got that rapid fire cannon, has those Swifties, is continuing to build up. But now Prey, 2 items enabled. 2 items for Peanut as well. Kind of stuff for Cinder Hulk and that Zeke's convergence. So they're already hitting that mid-game power spike with a team comp that will absolutely have the tools to accelerate further.
Yeah, and of course with Doublelift's build here, well, a lot of it often depends on how much gold you have when you go back. If you don't actually have 1300 straight for BF sword, you start going in towards boots and you start building, attack speed items and get the rapid fire cannon, which is still useful for you. It does slow you down a little bit when it comes to just pure mid-game damage because you don't have a lot of attack damage at the moment. And if you look on the other side with the S-roll, there we go. About 18 minutes, tier fully stacked. Like, he deals so much more damage than Doublelift at the moment, and Team Liquid's only choice is to keep stalling. But that's to give over all Drakes to Kingzone.
The interesting thing about these Jhin builds, though, where you go for the Swifties and the rapid fires, it's so much about getting that fourth shot on the targets you want, because you have so much move speed with fleet footwork, swiftness boots, and you have that extra long fourth shot, and you can look to really kind of deal that punishing blow. And that's going to be needed against Kingzone, because when you look at a team that has a Karma, that has these beefy frontliners and a Soraka, you have to reach a critical mass of damage. Otherwise, your damage does not matter at all. If you cannot burst someone down in a fight, the Soraka and the Karma will keep them alive indefinitely. And that's where it really starts to become this kind of risky fights, because you have to know that you're going to get the kill immediately or you can't take it at all.
Oh, feeling the tension here as both teams just trading a couple of love taps back and forth, despite Doublelift finding that deadly flourish route onto Gorilla. There was no further follow-up. Team Liquid still happy, just biding their time, trying to keep up in terms of itemization. And it's a difficult situation to be in.
Bobuilder did get a bit of time to push the top side because there were actually, a jungler missing and there were a bunch of control wards in Team Liquid's jungle, so Kingzone probably didn't feel 100% confident in knowing if Smithy would show up and try and do something, but it's just a couple of hits from Bobuilder's side, and we're still looking at a 3 for 0 in turrets. Bot lane 1 is the one that's low, but that's where Impact is sitting.
This is a small point, but it's interesting to note that you can see 6 charges still of the minion dematerializer. There are 14. Liquid Impact and Pobelter holding on to those. I'm perhaps worried about the fact that despite there is no banner right now, that maybe one could come later, and you may have to deal with that. So they are kind of holding on to that and looking forward in the game.
Yeah, definitely going to buy some time later. As you can see how many difficulties Khan is having. With this banner-empowered minion, he manages to feast it down there right at the end. But now, right, we've hit 20 minutes on the clock. Baron will be on the cards. 2 Cloud Drakes on the side of Kingzone. Next one, Cloud as well. They'll be able to reposition around the map. This benefits them relatively well, especially when they need to be in the right place at the right time.
And especially in a game that is looking like it's kind of turning into a 1-3-1, right? You know, having that extra movement speed becomes that much more important for catching people out, for escaping in those collapse situations if a Tahm Kench is coming in, helping you to run away, or helping you to pick off Pobelter in a side lane. And that has been one of Pobelter's weaknesses. You know, as a player, this split is sometimes he is too far out in these side lane games and getting picked off and giving up free kills, which can then lead into objectives. And against Kingzone, you cannot afford to have those mistakes made. The margin just became smaller with 2 Cloud Dragons.
Question, we talked a little bit about scaling and picks and bans, but let's now look, we're 20 minutes in, it's a 2k gold lead. Obviously, Kingzone have a lot of opportunity to climb further ahead, but whose comp do you like more as this game continues to stay a bit stale and scaling up?
I think due to how well I know Kingzone can execute a Israel comp, I like theirs more. Let's see what happens topside though. Pobel, he's alone.
He's just going to get run down, yeah. Realm Warp.
Jump out.
Be able to buy some time, but now all of a sudden Xmithy and Ole are in trouble. Going to try turn some damage around. The Undertow comes out. I did not think Pobelter was going to survive. Collateral damage will buy a few seconds longer. Enough for Doublelift to blast code over. I thought Pobelter was dead to rights and he manages to survive.
Yeah, it felt like I hit him with the caster curse there, but he does barely get out. The tether actually just barely not landing from BDD, otherwise it would have canceled. But you know, back to your point, Officio, about scaling.
Yeah, so just the thing for me when I look at how late game teamfights are going to look, we know Prey with the Archangel build will have a ton of damage. He can actually dish to whoever is right in front of him. And then they have Cho'Gath Feast to help kill Impact, which is going to be a key thing for Kingzone the rest of the fight. Soraka and Karma late game just add so much utility, shielding, healing, that it's really difficult for Team Liquid to actually burn through the front line of Kingzone or try and catch Prey and like one-shot him because he's the main carry. Because there's just so much protection. Peanut even built to buff his AD carry further with the Zeeks on the Olaf here. And while there is a lot of damage between, of course, like a Graves, a Ryze, and a Jhin, a lot of it in an open team fight is just hitting one target and not massive AoE spread that could suddenly kill 2 or 3 squishies. It's really trying to burst one, and that's where Soraka and Karma can stop it.
And I also think that, you know, the barrier for execution here for TL is very high because it essentially is going to require a perfect engage, an immediate kill to win a fight. Whereas Kingzone, you have Prey supported by so many people, he can simply hit a few Qs on Graves and then now he has to leave.
Well, round 3, fight! Pobelter's already ghosting. There's 3 members. Make out 4 members coming up. He's going to be throwing down the flash. Most people buy some time. Pobelter does it again, but at the cost of both summoner spells. Teleports now being channeled into the top of the map. Cancelled by Impact. Will back away. So Pobelter lives, but at the cost of his top laner's TP.
One of the greatest things about Ezreal is how good he is. You know, when he's sitting on these 2 items, he's a bit ahead of the enemy AD carry. Typically, once you hit that point at 18 minutes, that means he often gets the mid lane control, and that suddenly allows you to go to side lanes and catch whoever is trying to split push. It's happened quite a few times against Pobelter. He's managed to stay alive, which is very good, but it's Kingzone who's controlled that top side for the last few minutes, making it harder for Ryze to push. Now, though, for Team Liquid, Essence Reaver is ready for Doublelift, and that second tier, this is the one downside of the build for the Ezreal is the second tier right now is still stacking, and while it does add some immediate value, because you have, of course, an item that benefits from mana, it's not like he's going to be further ahead based on just building a tier.
And I would say because of that, one of the real windows here for TL is when Doublelift actually completes his 3rd item. If that Archangels is not fully stacked, that can be where the gold lead doesn't really mean as much, as not yet manifested. We'll see if they're going to be able to really kind of find anything around that, though, because it may be a fairly tight time.
It will be some time, and despite the trading back and forth, you can see just how much damage Prey is already doing. An Abyssal Voyage into the river, but didn't do a whole lot. There wasn't anybody cut off in the Baron pits. If you look at the minimap, you can see how much vision Kingzone have established already. Even throwing down that blue trinket into the red buff pit, and now Kingzone in a challenge.
Also have to remember Kingzone can like go to Baron, start it with 2 or 3 members, and just heal back up in case Team Liquid moves in, so they can constantly just dance around it. They could also here just swap Khan to top side, because his TP is on cooldown, and they kind of need to Cho'Gath if they want to rush it down as fast as possible, but they're still fine just playing scaling, because you're also sitting at that point where you start getting a bit of AP as the Ezreal, which is okay with all your scaling, but...
Ole's in trouble.
Ole's,
Wants to use that grey health. He flashes over the wall. And there's some disengage now from Xmithy. Xmithy forced to flash as well. Just like that, Kingzone find themselves enough play to secure 2 summoners. That's because Impact and Pobelter did not leave the side lanes.
Well, one thing Team Liquid are currently not respecting is when Team Liquid has tried to make a play, they try to use their window of opportunity to attack Kingzone. When that backfires, well, the advantage goes to Kingzone. It's now their turn to actually make a play on you, and Team Liquid in the mid lane here did not respect that, because they had to go and push out these side lanes, so there are only 3 members sitting there, and Kingzone could easily engage.
Yeah, and perhaps instead of looking for those fights, you should use those little advantages to maybe get some vision back, to start to establish control in your own jungle. Just kind of move those wards further as they're looking to do now. And I'm going to be pretty interested also to see when an Executioner's calling is actually picked up here from TL, because there's no healing debuffs whatsoever on their team. This late into the game against the Soraka, against a Cho'Gath who even has a fair bit of healing, and even the Athenes on BVD. So there's a tremendous amount of healing that is going to be coming out.
Well, the opportunity from Team Liquid here onto Khan. Flash was used earlier. Khan continues to run for his life. Down below 1,000 HP. Wish has been used as well. Double F gets the kill secured. Now BDD tries to turn it back around on Impact, and despite Team Liquid getting their 3rd kill, it's still not going to equate to much control yet.
Well, really good ult there from Impact, because not only did it hit Khan on the way out, it actually hit BDD outside the screen, really far away, and stopped him from rushing into the fight even faster. So there was no shielding coming in from the Karma. It was just a healing from Gorilla to try and keep Khan alive here. Team Liquid, they showed, as we talked about it, there's a lot of single target damage. There's a good CC as well with the Rise in there to just lock someone in place. Notice on the minimap how BDD, he's far away at the moment.
And this has always been really Impact's strength. It's less about his laning, it's more about his team fighting, his playmaking in the mid-game, how he moves around the map and interacts with his team. And that has always been his strength, really, in the NALCS, and showing that again here, which is kind of resulting in at least some more vision control. TL, it has to be said, with Kingzone, the strength of the early game, they are playing them even. We're approaching 30 minutes into the game. Yes, there is triple Cloud Dragon on the other side, but that is not an insurmountable advantage. And Team Liquid is looking pretty good.
Oh, Ole gets caught out by that Mystic shot. Despite the grey health, will get run down. Just gives up that kill. And you know what? For the first time that Team Liquid has represented the North American LCS on the MSI stage, the international stages, little mistakes like that really will hurt.
And that's kind of been the thing here. Team Liquid is actually doing just fine in the game, but then it all starts in the bot lane with this turret here where they go for Drake instead and they lose everything. And then recalling in the side brush when your entire team is backed away. If it works, great. You went back to base a little bit faster, but if you just walk back and spend 5, 6 seconds maybe on that, you guarantee you don't get caught out like this. And now Kingzone once again can push.
All right, Realm Warp is going to get interrupted here. Pobelter is now in trouble. There's no support from anybody. Despite the flash, he's just going to try delay time. Another pick, another kill that you cannot afford.
Yeah, and when Ole is not on the map, when your support is still dead, you can't be that far out. You don't have the vision to do that. And this is giving Kingzone full control of the Baron area. It's not the Baron just yet, but it may give them the vision to actually look to pressure it.
Yeah, look at this. With Xmithy being eaten alive, Prey gets the kill secure in the end. It's another one for Kingzone.
You're just seeing the control. You're seeing the calling from them. They know exactly what to do. Whenever these side lanes are pushed, notice how they always just collapse around the mid lane when Team Liquid is just sitting there trying to wave clear, and they just catch them out instantly. They get a Baron. There's no chance of a steal from Team Liquid's side, and it's just a very clean way to use your numbers advantage if you're Kingzone. Team Liquid's only way back, it's been through some of the team fighting, but they've only gotten a few of them.
And the vision, if you look at the minimap, the entire Team Liquid jungle is lit up by Kingzone. They have so much information to work with. They've extended that gold lead, and the first tower of the game will fall in favor of Team Liquid down bottom, thanks to this Banner-empowered minion.
And while they have been winning some of those team fights, it gets tougher when you start to give a bigger gold lead, right, as they have now. And Pobelter, as you can see, Ole was still dead on the map. You can't be that far out without the vision to support this. Without your support on the map, you don't have any pressure in other lanes. I mean, look at the minion wave in mid. Impact is not pushing out either, so there's no pressure on the map, and it's a pretty costly mistake.
Yeah, they actually have decent vision around Baron to at least spot if Kingzone were rushing that. Otherwise, normally you can see a player try and go for a play to get a ward snuck over, but not really necessary in this case. And now we get that Archangel on Prey. And if you've never seen the build before, it is simply because if you play as Israel, there's a lot of things that this one item gives you. The extra mana is fantastic when you have Moro mana. 3% of course of your mana, maximum mana spent there, twice the amount of damage being dealt. So the more mana you can stack, the more DPS you get from it. AP scalings on Israel are actually very strong, especially on his ulti. There's now gonna come a shield from it as it's fully upgraded, if someone managed to catch you, and you get another 10% CDR. It's like, all of it is actually just very positive because he has this one item that buffs his damage from the autos and the Qs with the Muramana specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually 20% CDR on that item, and then also,
yeah, even better.
1,400 flat mana on the item itself means they're almost never, ever going to run out of mana for that poke. And back on the side, looking for an engage.
Well, let's take a look. Call of the Forge God comes out. That's a lot of damage on BDD, but look at the shields. Double Lift does get the kill, and Gentleman at 30 minutes on the clock with an Infinity Edge. Double Lift's not done. He's looking onto Peanuts, Gorilla, and Prey to look for the re-engage. Prey is untouched. Arcane shifts over the wall. Ole with the Devour to save his teammate's life. And now Peanuts looking for the undertows.
Oh, the damage!
Double Lift flashes away for his life. Not going to be a true shot barrage available just yet. His Impact is forced to run away. Despite finding the early kill, there's simply too much damage from this Ezreal.
And Prey is just way too strong. Played that fight so beautifully, staying over the wall, poking out TL, finding his moment, and then diving in. And you can do that because that Seraphs is like an extra defensive summoner there. TL, though, have stalled up the bear. They're looking for a TP flank here. Impact's coming from behind.
Oh, what can they do? This will get interesting. Impact's going to turn his attention to Prey and to Khan, who is the target. The Feral Scream buys a lot of time. No CC is finding anybody, and in actual fact, Team Liquid are losing the fight. There's going to be a deadly flourish. Will slow down Prey for the time being. Shots 1 and 2 will find True, but there's nobody killing anyone, and BDD is going to flash forward, get that Mounter Q down. That will keep Double Lift in place long enough for Prey to shut him down. And despite Call of the Forge God, Team Liquid's base is in tatters. Team Liquid's team are falling like flies, and Kingzone are smashing North America's hope in the 32nd minutes.
It was the same kind of start to a fight as we've seen before with Team Liquid. They get one kill, but it's not Prey they're killing. And the moment he shows up, he deals so much damage, and he's so good at positioning around. They simply cannot get to him.
For the first time in 2018, Double Lift has died on Jhin. He may still be dead by time this game is over. Kingzone played it safe, played it smart, but in the end, they will take down Team Liquid to secure the win.
Incredibly strong first showing there from Kingzone. They're never really in danger of losing this game. Always having such good responses on the map. They lost some kills, but they're getting objectives. They're creating farm advantages. Their superior vision control really shined through around the Baron and helped to net them that win.
And they show us first pick Israel. They make it very clear. We know if Prey plays this one champion, we can just build a comp around him. We don't need to carry top. We can simply rely on an Ezreal stack 2 tiers and then just carry everything. And that's going to be a big deal, of course, for the rest of the tournament. Other teams looking at this, will they start doing the same? Will they just ban it away against Prey? Because we've seen Khan grab a tank. We've seen Peanut not all in invade in the early game because he respected the Graves. And the team said, we don't have to win anywhere else but Prey.
I mean, Prey tripled the damage of anyone on Team Liquid, which is just actually absurd. He was so accurate with his Ezreal Qs, hitting so much poke, pushing Team Liquid out, and Team Liquid certainly had their opportunities. That is a game they can walk off stage with their heads held high. They were competitive against Kingzone for 30+ minutes, but it's little mistakes that cost them a lot.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Trying to get too much in the bottom lane, you get a kill. They try to go for Dragon and Baron, or sorry, Dragon and Turret. They instead lose both because they split up. Again, here on this TP from Impact, going in without the Call of the Forge God, without the Ornn ultimate, you cannot really make that play happen. And these little mistakes get so heavily punished by an elite team like Kingzone.
Yeah, and whenever Team Liquid are the ones stepping forward to make a play and gets countered, they don't respect what Kingzone will then do the following minute. And multiple times he lost in flashes or a kill in there. We did see a few times they managed to grab the first kill of a team fight, but once again, it was not Prey who died, and he was the one they needed to kill.
No, I think the game played out somewhat as expected, right? We saw Team Liquid, they had some moments, those last few team fights, definitely, despite the gold being a little in favor of Kingzone. What does this tell you about Kingzone then? They played their game, they played their playstyle. I think Deficio used the exact phrase, I believe in Kingzone's ability to play Ezreal Did it play as expected, or was that mid-game being so slow and so passive too slow?
I think when you have Ezreal getting the second tier, you don't necessarily need to force a fight right there, because that's where some of the other AD carries can try and match him a little bit. I think it's okay to just wait for him to fully complete it, which is very clearly what they did, because they didn't want to go for early Barons or anything. I think they played it very well. I think they're showing us, of course, that praise Ezreal. Fun fact, it needs to be respected.
Pretty good. It's
and
pretty
you might
good.
have to take it away if you can't deal with
I am
this
sorry to interrupt you, Deficio, but the analyst desk is
you're
ready.
not.
So let's send it over to them to find out how Kingzone won that game over at the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. Yeah, come on, Deficio. Leave us something to talk about. Praise Ezreal. Kingzone first picks it for him, saying, hey, we're going to entrust all of the damage for this team coming out of you, foregoing any other pick here in the first rotation. 49% of the team's damage coming out of that pick.
And a lot of time over the course of tournaments, a tournament meta does emerge. You know, certain champions, they start to rise up, teams start grabbing them up, and I think Kingzone have kind of thrown the first stone in saying the Ezreal pick. We saw it in play-ins, we saw how strong the double tier composition was, and now Prey just took it to a completely different level, and he's not the only god tier Ezreal player at this tournament. I think now it's almost moving into, you know, you have to plan around it.
But I also love the fact that they gave it a winning matchup too, right? Because they saw that the Tahm Kench came out after the Jhin was locked in as well from the side of Team Liquid, and they said, okay, we have the choice of Janna or Soraka. We feel we can get more potency out of the Soraka. We have enough shields with the Karma, which they certainly did. And then they not only won that 2 versus 2, but you couldn't gank them. I mean, we did see a couple ganks attempted from Team Liquid. I believe they managed to get one kill out of the back of it, but it just didn't result in anything because Kingzone did such a good job of utilizing the bot lane pressure that they had to take that first tower, and that's where things started to snowball out of control. For
Ultimately, though, before we move on from draft, I do want to say that the only problem that I really had with Kingzone's draft, because I see the first 3 picks, the Olaf, the Karma, the Ezreal, I'm like, damn, you know, this is a sick composition, this is so hard to deal with, was the Cho'Gath. I would have preferred that they had grabbed Hard Engage, because especially in tandem with the Gangplank and the Alistar bans from Team Liquid, like there was kind of a slow stall-out moment for Kingzone where they were still grabbing all of this gold, but TL had the opportunity to hit back because they couldn't force those fights on the power spikes that Prey was able to grab. Yeah,
we saw an incredible amount of pressure applied to the map in the lane phase from Kingzone with pushing lanes, with that teleport from the Ezreal. You already mentioned it, Vidius. Team Liquid's response was to hard camp that bot lane, look to make a play there in Jad. About 15 minutes into the game, we had a very specific sequence of events that Team Liquid tried to wrestle control of the entire game at. I know you have some thoughts on the decision-making that went into this sequence of plays.
Yeah, Team Liquid played like they normally do, and I actually want to go over here to the big screen to get a little more into the clip, because Team Liquid would do this in North America, and it would work, but they were a little bit greedy. So when we look at this bot lane dive that comes up right here, they get the kill on the Cho'Gath very early, but it's what happened after that I really want to focus on. You see, they bring the Tahm Kench in, and they teleport down the Rise while getting a matched teleport from Kingzone. Keep in mind, they also have the Rift Herald here. So there's a couple of things they can do here. They have an Ornn over at red buff. They can bring him down if they want to take the turret or the dragon. They have the Rift Herald, they pop it. Double Finole stick around because they want the turret. That gets stopped by Kingzone. And then, because Ornn has ran back to the top lane to get farm, they don't have him at the Drake to try and get the Drake. And Kingzone is so good at responding to this. Not only do they push them off the Drake, they get a massive pressure advantage because all 4 members of Team Liquid are forced into a recall. When this play ended up completing, not only was the Cloud Drake going over, but they also lost the mid turret, they ended up being down all 3 turrets, and they had no turrets themselves. So if they just would have focused on one of the things, on the turret or on the Drake, and sent their team, they would have had it. And I think Kingzone is one of the only teams in the world that punishes that flawlessly, a very small tempo thing that Team Liquid messed up, and they didn't recover from that pressure for the rest of the game.
Well, and then again, this brings us back to that question of how do you attack a team like Kingzone? We talk about the early leads that they're capable of building and how if you just extend them 1K, 2K gold lead, they will never let you back into the game. So it suggests you got to go full early against this team. But how can you go full early when they're playing in a way that protects or gives Peanut the agency to protect his laners?
It's one of those very difficult situations where they as a team make very few mistakes while also are very good at punishing a lot of mistakes. And the thing is that we have from a lot of Western teams is while they may make mistakes, they don't recognize how many they actually make because teams aren't good enough to punish them. So when you come to an international setting and you go up against a team like Kingzone, they recognize these small opportunities and they're willing to take advantage of them. And it's so beautiful to watch. It's really high level League of Legends, but it also means that the Western teams really struggle to close the gap that we've been trying to do for so long.
Froska, I want to get final thoughts from you.
I mean, ultimately, yes, the game did go, it exploded at that moment that Jat highlighted. It looked like Kingzone were just going to be able to clean it out, but I feel like there was small moments for TL where suddenly it just kind of chained into all of these pickups. You know, Ole getting caught, Pobelter getting caught, Xmithy getting caught, and then it just, they fell over.
Right.
But if you tighten that up, again, they were playing the side lanes, and Kingzone, they were kind of forced into a sieging position. If they were able to just kind of hold their ground, try to find their item power spikes, they were still dealing with, you know, multiple threat composition that if Prey ever does mess up, you know, that's it, the comp's dead.
We got to get going, but Jat, against the tournament favorites here, how do you feel about Team Liquid's performance?
I think it was what we expected, and I don't think it's impossible for them to take a game.
Okay.
Right? I think the bot dive they did that I talked about on the big screen is a great play in theory. They just have to clean up their execution a little bit more.
Just ban Ezreal.
And just ban Ezreal.
They're going to be blue side next time they play him. Just
pick it.
Or just pick it. Look, problem solved. All right, now for more on that game, let's head over to Shox and Kingzone support.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Gorilla after winning their first game at MSI, and you played Soraka. Now, I know that you're known to bring new picks to the stage and to the international stage, but you haven't actually played that many ranged supports, all split. Why the choice for Soraka in this game and in this composition?
지금 우승드리면 너무 축하드리고 이제 고릴라 선수가 사실 국제 대회 나올 때마다 약간 새로운 픽을 가지고 오시는 경향이 있어요. 그래서 오늘 소라카를 하셨는데 왜 소라카를 하셨는지
네, 일단 소라카 같은 경우에 이제 탐켄치가 워낙 글로벌적으로 잘 움직이다 보니까 그에 맞춰서 이제 글로벌 궁극기로 약간 대응을 하려고 했고요. 또 라이즈 궁극기를 끊을 수 있는 이 스킬이 있기 때문에 조금 더 이번 판에서 조금 더 잘 쓸 수 있지 않았나 그래서 소라카를 했던 것 같아요.
So I picked Soraka because they picked Tamkench, and to counter his global ult, Soraka is really great. And they had Rise too, and you can cut his ult with my E. That's why I picked Soraka.
Fantastic composition and fantastic game. What is it like for you to be back in Berlin, where you were last in 2015, to play the finals?
이제 MS에 오셨는데 어떤 의미가 있나요? 이렇게 국제 대회 다시 오신?
네, 일단 마지막 베를린이 이제 롤드컵 준우승이었는데 그때 참 아쉽기도 했고 정말 좋은 걸 많이 배워갔거든요. 이제 다시 이렇게 베를린에 오게 돼서 되게 기쁘고 이번에 정말 좋은 결과를 한번 내보고 싶습니다.
So last time I came in Berlin, we did second place. So I was a bit disappointed. It was a shame, but we learned a lot of things. So I came back, and this time we're going to win.
This time you're going to win, and I have to ask you about that. You are huge, huge favorites, and we know what happened to Longzhu then at Worlds. How will you make sure that you now can keep a cool head, not only in the group stage, but also in the playoffs to get that championship?
작년 롤드컵 때도 약간 되게 좀 자신감이 있었는데 결과가 안 좋게 나와서 이번 MSI 때는 어떻게 좀 침착하게 끝까지 잘 하실 수 있을 것 같으신가요?
네, 일단 오늘 비록 저희 첫 경기가 그렇게 깔끔하진 못했지만 저희가 작년 롤드컵에서 많이 약간 뭐 자만을 했다던가 약간 그런 게 좀 많이 느껴져서 열심히 준비를 했는데 1경기가 조금 아쉽게 끝나긴 했지만 저희가 열심히 가다듬으면 그래도 작년 롤드컵보다는 훨씬 좋은 성적을 낼 수 있지 않을까 생각합니다.
So actually that first game wasn't that clean, and at the worst, we were a bit arrogant maybe, but this time we'll try our best to get better and to get to the playoffs and to have nice results.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it. Thank you very much, and good luck in the rest of the tournament.
Where is the Realm Warp? I'm looking for it. There's the tongue lashing. Body blocked by Fredo's Gorilla. Now finds himself in trouble. First blood pick up by Pobelter.
Bunch of NA caster minions staying in the way. They are blocking the Q from BDD. Snipe!
By Prey. Well, the opportunity from Team Liquid here onto Khan. Flash was used earlier. Khan continues to run for his life. Down below 1,000 HP. Wish has been used as well. Double gets the kill secured.
Oaken, and back on the side looking for an engage.
Well, let's take a look. Call of the Forge God comes out. That's a lot of damage on BDD, but look at the shields finding anybody. And in actual fact, Team Liquid are losing the fight. There's going to be a deadly flourish. Will slow down Prey for the time being. Shots 1 and 2 will find True, but there's nobody killing anyone. Kingzone played it safe, played it smart, but in the end, they will take down Team Liquid to secure the win.